On today's episode of Watch Chair Go, we are here with my 2017 Ford Fusion Energi, the plug-in hybrid version. You can see the charge port right there. And today, well, it loses its drivetrain. What is going on, guys? I am Watch Chair Go, and today, like I said, we're here with the Fusion Energi. And while we were working on that amazing Silverado high country video, it was so great having that thing drive itself with a trailer. Well, that night we pulled most of this car apart. So there's not really much left in here. Door handles and a few other things, and apparently the doors are suddenly locked. But Eric and I kind of got started on this car and never stopped. We did not plan on going this far, but I have one guy that's interested in the console, spare tire, and a bunch of other stuff out of this car, so we shredded it. We just went ahead and pulled almost everything out. The column's still gonna come out, the entire dash will come out. There's a bunch of stuff in here we still want, but for the most part, the interior, it's gone. Door panels are gonna come off. People are always buying door panels after these things get wrecked. We've still got side curtain airbags. I can't sell the airbags currently. We'll take everything out of this. The airbag control unit, even though it's got crash data in it, that'll get sent in, it'll get cleared. Basically everything in this car will get recovered and reused, repurposed for something. So it is true recycling. Honestly, we are saving the planet here by just taking cars apart. Sounds pretty awesome, doesn't it? Another cool thing I learned about this Ford Fusion is it has two separate wiper motors. Instead of just one with a linkage, it's got a wiper motor on each side. Of course, they're opposing wipers, but maybe it's cheaper to build motors than put together a huge metal linkage. Eric went ahead and pulled the front crash bar or the front bumper off of this thing, and you can see that it was pretty bad. So that was pushed in. It did end up breaking a lot of stuff. So we're throwing a lot away on this engine. We're throwing away what this must have been an auxiliary coolant pump. This is also, it seems like a coolant pump. I think it's okay. It sure looks like an external thermostat housing. It's definitely broken. And that must be the oil cooler that had been broken. Another auxiliary coolant pump looks broken. And somewhere in here, yeah, that's gotta be a coolant pump. The AC compressor lines had even sheared off in the accident. So unfortunately, we lost a lot of good parts before we even got this thing. This is a high voltage AC compressor. It can run the compressor exactly the speed it needs to run to match the demand for AC in the car. So I can't wait until there are no more belt drive AC compressors in the world. This is such a better system. But the lines are broke. So we're gonna see what we can get out of this thing. I don't know if it'll be much. Today, we're just gonna start ripping this apart and try to get the engine, transmission, and inverter out of here. And after that, list some stuff for sale. We've already listed a bit of this car for sale, tail lights, a bunch of the electronics, little stuff that we pulled off kind of the first day. But by the end of the day, we wanna have basically everything out of this car and get it back out of here onto a trailer to go get crushed. The Corvette and the Mini, both already got crushed. I'll throw you guys some video of the Mini right now. All right, let's learn about the Fusion. First thing I noticed is one of the CVs, the passenger side one, is ripped out of its cup. It's just laying there. So that's gonna be exciting. Everything under this is carpeted, which is nice as you get into nicer and nicer vehicles. They start carpeting all this instead of using hard plastic for the panels, but it covers up what we need to know. And what we need to know is, can you just unbolt the front subframe and drop everything out at once? It looks like we're gonna be able to do that. It might be a little tricky. We might have to do a lot of sawzawing on this one. It got pretty wrecked in the front end. We're gonna find out here together shortly. Now, this is all the trash from the front end. There's a lot of it. I gotta get this all out of the way so we can set this on some dollies. But first, we have to get all these panels off. They keep rocks and sand and dirt from hitting the bottom of the car and annoying you, right? The whole point of these carpeted panels is to make things quieter. I'm gonna yank all of them out of here. They're all damaged. They're all going in the trash. And then we'll get to some of the good stuff, like the cat, things we're gonna sell. Well, we've been working for hours now. You guys saw me pull the underbody panels off and then stop. Well, that's because we had a new Harbor Freight brake bleeder that I just had to try. So we have to get all the brake fluid out of these cars, obviously, and we throw it in with our oil to go get recycled, but check this out. Now all we have to do is hit that trigger and it sucks the brake fluid out through the bleeder. So we've been getting all the brake fluid out of this car. I think it's done. I mean, it ran for like 30 minutes, but I think it sucked it all out of the entire braking system and the ABS pump. And then Eric and I went hard on this engine. So the engine we've decided is scrap. Unfortunately, this happens when you're buying these things sometimes. We knew from the beginning that those bolts right there were sheared, but this is a replaceable part on the side of the head. So we thought, no big deal. And then things got worse. The ECU's cracked. The ECU's bent. This is the electric heat. So you can see the gigantic wiring coming from the battery over into the heating module, and it passes the coolant through there and quickly heats the cabin without running the engine. So you don't have to start the engine up. You know, as little as possible. You want to run the engine as little as possible. Over here on the transmission, we thought that was good, and then we found that bolt hole right there where half of it's gone. So unfortunately, trans, engine, I think all of that's getting sold for core or scrap at this point. We definitely lost on that deal. We're gonna still try to pull it, and we've saved as much as we can. Obviously all this high voltage stuff over here, the inverter, cables, saved all that. ABS pump, brake booster. This has a crazy brake booster with so many sensors, because obviously you gotta have vacuum without having the engine running. And we were able to save the vacuum pump, incredibly. AC compressor, saved, even though the bracket down there broke. The AC compressor, nice and clean. Basically everything else in the car is going to get scrapped, except for the brakes, and we still have more of the interior to get out. And that's not to say we haven't pulled a lot of the interior. This entire cart that Eric's obsessed with is interior.
You want to talk about cart?
Cart? So I think the center console is hopefully sold, spare, tire, a whole bunch of this stuff is already going away, but like the entire interiors here, a ton of engine parts that we were able to save. We were able to save the passenger doors, both of them. So we're pulling those as whole units. And over here on the driver's side, we have stripped the doors, the windows, window regulators, locks, power locks, everything came out of the doors. And we're gonna pull the fuel door, and that's basically it, right? I think we're gonna save these airbags, even though I also wanna blow them. Eric said blow them, because we can't sell them yet. We can't sell the airbags on eBay Motors or as of yet. So you have to be a certified automotive recycler. So we have to join ARA, which we're planning on doing. And then you have to meet a special criteria for the airbags, which it's a certification that basically says you'll track the life cycle forever. So if an airbag gets recalled, like all the Takata airbags, and you've sold one before, well, the letter will come to you, and then you have to pass that letter on to your consumer, which means you have to have a database that's tracking all your airbag sales forever, basically, or, you know, a piece of paper. A piece of paper would be good enough as long as you kept it in the safe. A fire safe with some sheets of paper. It would get the job done, but we're trying to do this all with some tech where you can quickly search and make things happen in a hurry, obviously. So we can't sell airbags on eBay. All of that's to say, at this point, we can't sell them yet. But we will, because I have so many airbags. In fact, there's probably 20 airbags on the shelf already over there. Escalade, Mini, Corvette, like I just have airbags forever. A whole bunch of other cars. None of them are recalled. We should be able to sell them all, but unfortunately right now, we can't sell those ones on eBay Motors, and that's where we sell things, obviously. So all of this came out of the inside today. There's those door panels. The doors are laid together. Everything will get cleaned up still. It's all carefully laid together. Don't worry about the glass, but we'll get it all clean, start getting all this stuff listed. And then this whole pile here is our trash pile. So we have been ripping all day long. The spoiler came off, obviously, whole interior, and there's a few things left. What, the BCM, the throttle pedal, HVAC. I don't know, we shouldn't pull the HVAC, but we're going to. It's a problem I have. The HVAC should get crushed. At this point on a car, if a heater core dies, everybody's crushing the car. Nobody's pulling a dash, because it's a 10-hour job every time, 10, 20-hour job. People aren't pulling dashes, but we've pulled every heater box so far. So we'll probably pull this one too. We just hooked 12 volts up to the electronic parking brakes to de-apply them. So now they spin. There we go. We just take a Milwaukee battery, give it 12 volts, and you hear it pull back and you're ready to rock. So we're gonna save all the brakes and a lot of the rear end too. If there's one thing in the salvage game you guys might not have thought of, it's how do you get fuel out of the gas tank? And it's one of the biggest deals in the salvage business as well, because everybody has to get the fuel out of the gas tanks. When the cars go to get crushed, shredded, anything like that, they can't have any fuel in them because they could explode when they go into the shredder. So what do you do to drain the fuel out? Well, there's a couple options. If the car is still working, you could just pull the line off the fuel rail, turn on the fuel pump, and let it run. But it takes forever, not a great plan. And another thing I've tried to come up with, we've tried to pump out gas tanks many times on the channel. You know, we need to do a fuel pump it down. We've been through all that. It never works very well. So I was trying to come up with something we could do, like feed a hose down through the filler all the way into the tank. And then inside that hose, we'd have another hose with a little fuel sock, like a normal fuel pump. And we'd push that in and then turn on an electric fuel pump and pump it out real quick. That doesn't really work either because there's an anti-siphon valve right here at the actual tank. We're about full? Ooh, yeah. We're full. We need to change that. We could have pulled this one and saved it, but it's a metal tank. Nobody wants that at all. We had to take a quick break and switch tanks. Our first 5-gallon can is completely full from this car. And of course, I found some more stuff we probably want, like all the evap out of this. Pretty interesting. There's a huge charcoal canister, test pump, all kinds of stuff in this evap system. But anyway, how do you get the fuel out of the tank? What everybody ends up doing, it seems like, is just puncturing the tank and throwing it away. Tanks don't really sell, especially these days. Plastic tanks, they never fail. So
that's a golden crown.
We took this brass punch real quick and my bandsaw, and I cut 4 sides onto it. I'm gonna cut it even better here shortly. I'll probably just stick it in the grinder and give it a spin, and we'll put a pencil sharp point on this thing, and you'll just stick it under the tank, smack it with a sledgehammer, and boom, drain the tank down. You can't get it crushed with gas in it, and for the most part, we don't need to have a big stock of tanks around here, especially modern tanks, because nothing ever goes wrong. You want me to sharpen that giant punch too? I'll do it.
Either that or
yeah.
Hit somebody with it, I don't know.
Weighs like 5 pounds.
Yeah.
All right, it's crazy though. Yeah,
there's 13 gallons.
That really is a metal tank inside of a 2017. It doesn't make any sense. Why would you do that, Ford? But the eventual plan is we need a little handheld tool with a brass punch in it where we just hold it up under the tank and pull a trigger and it punches a hole in it. That would be awesome. Or we just get to the right size of business where we pull this thing on with our Komatsu fork loader, like everybody does, onto a rack, and they have like a hydraulic brass punch that has a solid bottom end and a point, and it just punches up through the tank and rips back down and destroys everything on the way out and catches it in a big funnel that's already around the thing. That's the perfect setup. So hopefully that's where we end up, but for now, we're doing it with a sledgehammer and a brass punch. Turn it up one more, hit the button. Oh, well, you're there, it's right here. 4.
So 9.5 gallons so far?
There was a gallon in one of those tanks. So
8.5 gallons.
8 gallons.
Eric's
getting free gas. We weren't planning on going this hard, but here we are again with a car with nothing left inside it except a wiring harness. And I'm still not done. I worked until 3 a.m. last night. I still want the column, the BCM that's hiding over there on the driver's side, and the HVAC. Those are the last things I'm gonna pull out of this. Even cut the entire side of the car apart to get the fuel door out. Apparently, people are buying fuel door assemblies, so no more fuel door in this thing. Just trimmed all the way around it and then popped the bracket out. And up front, we still need to get the engine and the transmission out, even though we want to scrap them or sell them as a core. We do need the cat, like I mentioned before. So today, I just jump right back into it and see how far we can get. Well, we are here at the sketchy part, and I bet you guys think this is my favorite part, but honestly, when I'm here by myself pulling an entire front subframe, it's kind of not, because you never know if the engine's gonna roll and maybe you can't get out from under it. And that's pretty much it. You can't call for help, there's no one here. It is definitely sketchy doing any of this without some hydraulic assistance, like a forklift. A forklift or a cherry picker are always the answer, but we're trying to pull it from below, like I have been recently. So we've got the hydraulic cable car under here. It's jacked all the way up. You can actually see it's got enough power to lift the car, just tilt it back a hair. So I have 2 bolts left in the back. I went ahead and pulled everything else. I pulled this body bolt over here, and there's one more right here that got destroyed. So I tried to cut enough room in there for me to get a socket on, but the bolt is bent, and as it comes out, it flings off to the side and throws the socket. So there's no way I'm gonna get the rest of that. So what we need to do is pull those back 2 bolts, drop this thing down just a hair, and then we'll sawzall through that bolt, and this will be free. So I'm gonna throw you guys on time lapse right now. We'll pull those 2 bolts, get this one. I'm gonna pull the brake lines off the front calipers as well, and I think that's it. Everything's disconnected. I already pulled the 6 bolts that hold the struts in up top, so we should be straightforward from here. We're gonna find out together. I'm hoping that after this, it's not all too bent up and the subframe just drops straight down. It might not, but it might. And it's out, one 2017 Ford Fusion Titanium drivetrain. Unfortunately, it's all, you know, this stuff's all fine. I think the engine's fine and the transmission's fine. You would just have to replace this cover right here. Clearly, completely bolts on, so not really a big deal. I guess that's probably a CVT with a hybrid assist in it. And if you replace this cover here that bolts onto the side of the head, yeah, the timing cover. It looks like that's all it needs is those 2 covers, and this would be a running setup. But unfortunately, we're not gonna mess with that. It's just not worth the time. So it's getting sold as a core after we get the cats out of this thing. Look at these body bolts, they're gigantic. And look at the twist in that thing. How crazy is that? These collisions, they hit hard because that is a gigantic bolt and it was destroyed. So next up, we'll pull this exhaust manifold off here. Even the power steering, the EPS is cracked, so we couldn't save the rack. That's why we went ahead and just cut through the shaft. There was no reason to save it. So the rack's getting all of that. Pretty much everything's going in the scrap. We'll see what can get sold for cores, but for the most part, this is weight, unfortunately. So they're not all wins in this game, that's for sure. That is it for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to head on over to shop.watchtergo.com for cool shirts, not like this. And please like, share, subscribe, do whatever you want to do, and I will talk to you next time. Well, with the engine out and these carts full of parts and everything else organized, that is the end of the 2017 Fusion. It didn't take long at all. Probably a solid 2 days. Not terribly long, but we do have quite a few parts out of it. We didn't win the way we thought we were going to, but at the same time, we'll probably do okay once the cats come off. Hopefully we have this out of here and this shop all cleaned up tomorrow-ish. Seems like a lot of work, but we're gonna try. You guys know what's funny? First, this is like the entire interior, but these are always the money. The turn signal and the wiper stocks are always like $100 each. And they're really nice on these. They just plug in, plug and play. We'll sell all the handles. Got you know, the light controls, trunk buttons. This has lighted cup holders. This is a really high option car. So we pulled everything we could.